coffee, Lois.
Thank you, Miss Logan.
Mary?
No, thanks.
Dennis is rather late this morning.
Perhaps he's already gone out.
Without his breakfast.
He may have needed to see someone in the village.
I wonder where he can be.
He's probably still in his room, sleeping it off.
Mary.
He didn't get in till nearly 4. Didn't you hear him?
No.
That's surprising. He made enough noise.
That remark was uncalled for, Mary.
What? About the noise he made? Or the condition he was in?
Both.
Didn't you hear him?
I did not.
Then I beg your pardon. Yours too, Lois.
Oh, there's no need. I'm sure there's a perfectly simple explanation.
Doubtless.
I say, have any of you seen the paper? I've been looking all over. Not a sign of it. Most strange.
Is this what you're after?
Oh, well done. You know, I was beginning to think one of the servants had snaffled it.
Dennis, you know none of the staff would ever do such a thing.
Just a joke.
I'm sorry to have put you to so much trouble.
That's all right. Sure you're finished with it?
Quite sure.
Jolly go.
The racing results are at the back.
Oh. Hello, honey bunch.
Kippers, Dennis, or scrambled eggs?
Yeah, neither, thanks.
Or the sum of Mrs. Holloway's excellent porridge?
No, nothing for me, really. Perhaps I'll just have a cup of coffee.
Only coffee?
Black, please.
Are you not feeling well?
No, I'm fine. Maybe a bit off colour.
Perhaps you've got a touch of flu.
Perhaps.
Oh, I hope not.
There's a lot of it about.
Thanks.
Parcel just come for you, Miss Hargreaves.
Thank you, Esther. Goodness.
What's up?
Chocolates. Look,
I say.
Who sent them here?
there's no name. And there doesn't seem to be a card.
That's odd.
Perhaps you have an unknown admirer. Hmm?
Dennis.
Apart from me, that is.
Thank you, Esther.
Well, whoever they're from, they look lovely. Here, Mary, try one.
No, thanks.
Oh, do?
No, really.
Worried about your figure, Mary?
Well, just one.
Miss Logan?
Oh, thank you, dear.
Dennis?
Not for me, thanks.
Oh, really?
No, I must run. Fact is, I have to go and see...
A man about a horse?
Something like that, yes. Save a few for me.
Shall we expect you for lunch, Dennis?
Why not? Shan't be long now. Bye.
Now, which shall I choose? Hard or soft?
They're absolutely delicious.
I think soft. Scrumptious.
Rose, do you think this powder's the right shade?
Oh, yes.
You've got to be careful when you've got particular colouring like mine.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Think so? Yeah, it's not bad.
It's depraved and disgusting.
I wasn't talking to you.
You're a painted woman, my girl. Mark my words, you'll come to no good.
What do you think, Mrs. Holloway?
Don't bother me now, Esther. I've got too much to do.
Be careful the young mistress doesn't catch you with all that harlot's muck on your face.
What, Miss Hargreaves? She don't know what day it is. Mr. Radcliffe does, though. He said I looked peachy. You're just jealous. You ought to use makeup, Rose.
Oh, no.
I mean it. Why don't you try it sometime?
I don't think so.
I tell you what, I'll lend you some of mine.
Leave the wee girl alone.
What's it got to do with you?
It's unseemly and against the will of God.
They're ringing for you, Esther.
I'm not deaf. Give you a tip. Suck your lips a bit.
What?
Suck your lips. Like this.
What for?
Makes them look redder. More desirable, see?
Esther!
Oh, all right, all right. You can all say your prayers now.
Must send for the police.
No,
In heaven's name, why not?
just don't feel justified.
Not justified after what happened.
Dr. Burton.
Listen to me, Miss Hargreaves. Lois, this isn't the first time.
I know.
Something has to be done.
But the police...
You owe it to everyone. Most of all to yourself.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Then I'll not be responsible.
You don't have to be.
My dear girl, you're my patient. And a very dear friend.
Perhaps there's another way.
Another way?
Yes. One equally as good and much safer. I've thought of something that doesn't involve the police.
Gotcha. Do that. Who is it?
The girl.
Oh, let me see.
A very nice girl.
Please.
She looks to me a frightfully nice girl.
Be silly.
All right. Albert's giving you the usual tosh.
The truth is, madam, we've never been so busy. You could say we're up to our eyes.
Oh,
Yeah, Scotland Yard on the telephone every minute, and the Santé, that's the French police, you know. Well, they've been pestering us something rotten.
oh dear.
Yeah, the boss has just about rushed off his pins.
Well, perhaps I'd better go.
Oh, no, I didn't say it was impossible. We might be able to, squeeze you in.
Oh, I'd be most awfully grateful.
She's not bad.
Not bad.
And the clothes are simply the latest show.
She's perfectly lovely. And obviously frightfully sympathetic. And beautiful. And distinctly intelligent without being too, saucy.
Your powers of observation are distinctly keen this morning.
This case is going to require very careful handling.
Is it?
I shall be sophisticated, suave, distingué.
What, all at once?
I know this, Tuppence. I am captain of this ship, and don't you forget it. Let's have her in. Entree.
Miss Lois Hargreaves, sir.
How do you do, Miss Hargreaves? That will be all, Albert. May I present Miss Robinson?
How do you do?
How do you do?
Miss Robinson is my amanuensis. Thank you, Albert. Won't you take a seat?
Thank you.
Get out, Albert. Now, we shall not be serious or formal. You will simply tell me all about it, and we shall then discuss the best way to help you out of your present little contretemps.
You're very kind, Mr. Blunt.
Pas de rien.
Excuse me, but are you a foreigner?
Not exactly, but my investigations carry me abroad a good deal. My methods are those of the French sûreté.
Oh,
Now, your name is Lois Hargreaves.
yes. I live in a great, rambling, old-fashioned house called Thurnley Grange. It is in the heart of the country and extremely isolated, although the little village of Thurnley is close by. I've never felt lonely there. Indeed, I much prefer country to town life.
Ah, how wise. If only I... Oh, but let that pass.
Please continue, Miss Hargreaves.
About a week ago, I got a box of chocolates sent through the post. There was nothing to indicate who they were from. Naturally, I passed them round. Everyone who'd eaten the chocolates was taken seriously ill.
Indeed?
My doctor, Dr. Burton, had the remaining chocolates analyzed. Mr. Blunt, those chocolates contained arsenic. Well, not enough to kill anyone, but quite enough to make them ill.
How extraordinary.
Dr. Burton was most concerned. You see, this was the third occurrence of the kind in our neighborhood. In each case, a large house was selected, and the inmates taken ill after eating the mysterious chocolates. It looked as though someone was playing a particularly fiendish practical joke.
Is that Dr. Burton's opinion?
He puts it down to socialist agitation. There are one or two malcontents in the village.
Do you agree with him?
It seems to me rather absurd.
Quite. Miss Hargreaves, why haven't you gone to the police about this?
I hate the idea of the farce. And you know, the publicity. Anyway, I know our local inspector.
Oh?
I can't imagine him ever finding out anything.
I see.
Mr. Blunt. Miss Robinson. In your advertisements, you say a great deal about discretion. I take that to mean that you would not... Well, you would not make anything public without my consent.
Miss Hargreaves, I think you do as well to tell us everything.
You will not...
And everything will be kept in the strictest confidence.
Very well. I have a reason for not going to the police. The box of chocolates was sent by someone living in my own house.
How do you know?
It's very simple. I have a habit. It's foolish, really, of drawing something, a sort of doodle, whenever I have a pencil in my hand. It's a little design, like 3 fish intertwined. Well, some time ago, I received a parcel of silk stockings from London. I had been marking something in the newspaper at the time, and without thinking, I began to draw on the parcel before I opened it. I thought no more about it. But when I examined the paper in which the chocolates had been wrapped, I found...
You found what, Miss Hargreaves?
this.
Oh. This is most serious.
I know.
I ask you again, Miss Hargreaves. Why didn't you go to the police?
Because I may want the whole thing hushed up.
Whom do you suspect, Miss Hargreaves?
No one. But there are possibilities.
Quite. Please describe the household to us.
First, I must tell you that I was brought up by my aunt, Lady Radcliffe, who was very wealthy. Her husband made a big fortune and was knighted, but he died some years ago. That's when I went to live with my Aunt Lucy. I was her only living relative, apart from Dennis Radcliffe, her husband's nephew. I've always called him cousin, but of course he's nothing of the kind.
Go on.
Aunt Lucy always said she intended to leave her fortune to Dennis. It was Radcliffe money, she said, and ought to go to a Radcliffe. However, some time ago they quarrelled over some silly debts he'd run up, I think. And when my aunt died, I was astonished to find she'd left everything to me. Oh, it was a terrible blow to Dennis, and I felt badly about it. I wanted to give him the money, but I knew he wouldn't take it. However, as soon as I was 21, I made a will, leaving it all to him. So, if anything should happen, at least Dennis will come into his own.
And when, may I ask, were you 21?
Just 3 weeks ago.
Miss Hargreaves, the members of your household.
Servants or others?
Everyone.
Well, most of the servants have been with us for ages. There's Mrs. Holloway, the cook. Oh, she's rather quiet and works very hard. But then there's Rose, her daughter. She's very shy and keeps mostly to herself. Hannah was my aunt's maid. She's quite old and rather religious. The parlour maid is Esther Quant. I don't know much about her. She's only just joined us, but she seems very nice. As for ours, Miss Logan was Aunt Lucy's companion. She runs the house for me. And then there's Captain Radcliffe. Dennis, you know, whom I told you about. And a girl called Mary Chilcott, who is staying with us. We were at school together. She's my oldest and dearest friend. And that's all.
So I take it you're not suspicious of anyone in particular. You are only afraid it may turn out to be, well, not a servant, shall we say? Yes. It's clear what's to be done. We must be on the spot.
Oh, when will you come down?
Tomorrow. There's no time to lose.
One thing more, Miss Hargreaves. Not a word to anyone of what you have just told me.
I promise.
Thank you. Oh, Albert, show Miss Hargreaves out, would you?
Very good, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you. I'm most grateful.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
Au revoir, Mr. Blunt.
Oh, bon voyage, Miss Hargreaves. Well, what do you think?
I don't like it. Especially the chocolates having so little arsenic in them.
What do you mean?
Well, don't you see? Those sent round the neighbourhood were just a sort of blind to establish the idea of a local maniac, so when this poor girl is poisoned, it would seem as though it was the same thing. But for this wrapping paper, no one would ever have guessed that they were actually sent by someone in the same house.
So you think it's a deliberate plot against Lois Hargreaves, then?
I'm certain of it. I remember reading about Lady Radcliffe's will. That girl's come into a terrific amount of money.
Which makes it look bad for Dennis Radcliffe. He gains most by her death.
She must love him an awful lot. Oh, darling, it's obvious. That's why she's determined not to go to the police.
Well, in that case, why doesn't he marry her?
I don't know.
Much safer and simpler than trying to kill her.
Unless, of course, he's already involved with somebody else.
Show a leg.
Oh, darling.
Now, I brought your breakfast and the morning paper. Hot off the press. I've been up for ages.
So energetic.
Right. And we've a journey to make, remember?
I suppose this is all a deep plot to deny me my rest.
It's past 8, you know.
Heavens, so early.
Now, I've run your bath. Oh, let's be on the road as soon as possible. There probably won't be much traffic, but you never know. Besides, I'm rather concerned about that street. What is it? Sudden outbreak of ptomaine poisoning. Those dead so far: Miss Lois Hargreaves, the owner of the house; her parlour maid, Esther Quant; the seriously ill Miss Rachel Logan. Lois Hargreaves dead. Oh, Tuppence. That girl. That perfectly ripping girl.
There's something about this house, even in daylight. Don't you feel it?
I feel only the need to confront that dirty blackguard Radcliffe. Come on. must be Rose Holloway.
Sir?
Look here, I'm not a reporter or anything. Miss Hargreaves came to see me yesterday and asked me to come down here. Who else is in the house?
Dr. Burton and Miss Chilcott. She's making all the arrangements.
I should like to see Dr. Burton at once.
This way, please, sir. If you wouldn't mind waiting.
Thank you.
How nasty.
More like a jungle than a conservatory.
So dank and oppressive. So the whole place is rotting.
I wonder who looks after it.
Can I help you?
Dr. Burton?
Yeah?
My card.
Are you Mr. Blunt?
This is my assistant, Miss Robinson.
How do you do?
Miss Hargreaves called on me yesterday about the poisoned chocolates. At her request, I came down to investigate. Alas, too late.
Under the circumstances, there is no need for reticence. But for the episode of the chocolates, I might have believed these deaths had been caused by severe ptomaine poisoning of an unusually virulent kind. There was gastrointestinal inflammation and hemorrhage. As it is, I'm taking the fig paste to be analyzed.
Oh, fig paste.
Did you not know? The cause of the outbreak was some fig paste sandwiches eaten at tea yesterday. The poison, if poison it is something potent and swift.
Arsenic?
No, something much more virulent. It looks like a powerful vegetable toxin.
Oh, vegetable toxin.
Yes.
I see. Where is Dennis Radcliffe?
Upstairs.
I should like to see him.
Mr.
At
Blunt,
once. At once.
Very well. I really should tell you. Captain Radcliffe died at 5 o'clock this morning.
You must be Mr. Blunt and Miss Robinson. Lois told me, you see. May we talk somewhere else? I'm so glad you're here. It's all too terrible. Oh, please sit down.
Thank you.
Is there anything I can tell you?
Yes. The fig paste that you had for tea yesterday. Where did it come from?
From London. We often have it. No one suspected anything. Personally, I dislike the flavour, which is why I ate none of the sandwiches. But Lois did, and Miss Logan.
And what about the maid, Esther Quant?
She must have filched some later. She was a greedy girl.
How is Miss Logan?
Dr. Burton seems to think she'll recover. He says that because she's older, the poison has had less effect. She's still very weak, though. What I can't understand is how Dennis... Captain Radcliffe was affected.
He wasn't with you for tea, then?
No, he was out.
What time did he return?
At about 6:45.
Did you see him?
Yes.
Miss Chilcott, were you in love with Captain Ratcliffe?
In love with him?
Yes, yes, that's what I said. Please, Miss Chilcott, this is very important.
He was rather wild and impulsive. And I suppose not very trustworthy.
But
he could be awfully amusing sometimes. He was like a little boy. Very generous and kind.
thank you.
Now, tell us, Miss Chilcott, what exactly happened last night?
Dennis had been out for a walk. He usually did just before dinner. It was getting dark. I was in the conservatory.
Keeping up the good work?
Well, I have to do something to keep myself occupied.
Oh, not as bad as all that, is it?
Sometimes.
Shame. Like a drink?
No, thanks. But don't let me stop you.
I won't.
Dennis. When are you going to tell Lois?
Tell her what?
About us?
Nothing really to tell, is there?
If you say not. Probably not as much as about you and the Parliament.
Esther? Don't say you're jealous.
I think I am.
Well, there's no need.
Dennis, you know you really are a bit of a rotter.
Oh, I say. You sure you won't have one?
Quite sure.
Look, old girl, don't you worry. Everything will turn out for the best.
Will it?
Bound to. Happy days.
He went upstairs. Not long after he fell ill.
Thank you, Miss Chilcott. You've
Been most helpful. We'll continue our talk later.
Yes, thanks so much.
What was all that about?
The kitchen. Quick! Stop! Ah, those yesterday's things.
Oh, I'm sorry, madam, but what with all the horrible business, I haven't had time.
Now listen, Rose. There was a glass in the conservatory. Have you washed it? Well, where is it?
What, there?
No. Thank you. Come on.
Carry on, Rose.
There are still 3 dregs in it. What luck.
Well done, darling. We'll get Dr. Burton to analyze it later.
Yes, won't tell us who put the poison in, though, will it? What next?
Hannah. Miss Macpherson?
Let hot, burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire on the pit, that they never rise up again.
May we speak to you, please?
There is no time. No time. Time is running short. I will follow upon mine enemies and overtake them. Yea, neither will I turn again till I have destroyed them. So it is written. I am the scourge of the Lord.
Where does that?
Go out from here. The time is at hand. I am the flail of the Lord. The wind bloweth where it listeth. So shall I destroy.
Thank you very much.
I wonder how long she's been like that.
I don't know. Look at this. It's
funny reading for a dotty old housemaid, wouldn't you say?
Materia Medica. Edward Logan. Logan. Logan, do you think it's a relative?
Let's find out.
Yes, it was one of my father's books. He was a great doctor. One of the pioneers of serum therapeutics.
You must have been very proud of him.
I was.
Miss Logan, the maid Hannah, is she quite, quite right in the head?
Oh, yes. She's very religious, but there's nothing wrong with her.
And that book, did you lend it to Hannah?
To Hannah? No, indeed.
Oh, Dr. Burton injected you.
I'm afraid he insisted. I seem to have been very ill.
And yet we found this book in Hannah's room.
Disgraceful. I will not have the servants touching my things.
Where ought it to be, Miss Logan?
On the bookshelf in my sitting room. Stay. I lent it to Mary.
To Mary?
The dear girl's very interested in plants of all kinds. She's taken over the care of the conservatory. I believe she's made one or two little experiments.
Oh?
Some herbal teas can be very restorative and quite wonderful for a cold in the head. I'm prone to them. So is Dennis. Poor Dennis. His father was my first cousin, you know.
The conservatory. Who else looks after it apart from Mary Chilcot?
Hannah does, occasionally, I believe.
I see. Well, thank you, Miss Logan. Forgive us for tiring you.
Yes, thank you. And just rest. Get well quickly.
Thank you, my dear.
I hate this house.
Well, let's hope the drive to Dr. Burton's will clear our heads.
And our minds.
So many possibilities. And yet the obvious one's dead.
Then it's Radcliffe. He must have had something for those girls to fall in love with him.
You know, the more I hear, the more I'm convinced he was a swine. The worst of it is, I can't help feeling responsible. I mean that somehow I could have prevented it.
That's foolish. And morbid. Lois Hargreaves refused to go to the police, and if she hadn't come to us, she'd have done nothing at all.
And the result would have been the same. Yes, you're right.
I swear to you, we're going to solve this case. I don't know how, but we will, even if it kills us. For that poor gal's sake. It's not going to be easy.
I know. Dr. Burton's still working on the fig paste analysis. He'll let us have the results as soon as he can.
Good. What puzzles me most is the timing of the deaths.
Timing?
Dennis Radcliffe was murdered after the others. Why?
Well, that's easy. He wasn't there. As soon as he returned, he was poisoned.
Maybe.
You don't sound very convinced.
Just that somehow I feel that timing is the key to the whole thing.
And if only I could get it on right this back. What if Lois Hargreaves wasn't the real target?
What on earth do you mean?
Supposing her death was a blind, like the chocolates. And Dennis Radcliffe was the intended victim all along. Is that possible?
It's possible, but not very probable. You're forgetting the money.
Yes, that's true. And Lois's fortune is the obvious motive. The obvious is so often right.
Tuppence? Did you like Mary Chilcot?
Yes, I think so. Why?
Don't you think it odd that she didn't seem more upset? I mean, she was supposed to be Lois Hargreaves' best friend.
Then, of course, I would be in her favour. I mean, if she is the murderer, wouldn't she make a point of being upset? You know, lay it on rather thick.
I suppose so. Oh, dear.
Not getting very far, are we?
No? I wonder what Esther Quant was really like.
Young. Good looking. What was it Mary Chilcot called her?
Greedy.
Obviously flirting with Dennis Radcliffe. I wonder if her interest was returned.
We shall probably never know. What a devilish tangle it all is.
Well, we've talked and we're no nearer a solution now than when we started.
Come on.
Oh, must we?
Yes, we must. You know, there's one person we mustn't forget. Hannah.
Hannah?
People do all sorts of things when they suffer from religious mania.
Must come on awfully rapidly.
I believe it does. You know, you go on muttering bits from the Bible in your bedroom for years, and then suddenly you go right over the line and become violent. Well, you saw.
Well, she wasn't exactly violent.
Near enough.
I suppose there is more evidence against her than anyone else. Yet, the perspective doesn't seem right.
Tuppence, we're getting nowhere. Unless I have an idea. Ah, Rose. Ask your mother if she can spare us a moment, would you please?
My mother?
And you come with her too.
Very good,
We
sir.
shall be in the conservatory. Well, sorry if we startled you.
You didn't. I thought you'd gone down to the village.
We're back. I gather you're fond of plants, Miss Chilcot.
Not really.
Oh? And yet you look after all these.
Well, someone has to, otherwise they'd run wild. Mr. Blunt, are you any nearer to solving this terrible business?
I believe so.
Are you quite certain that it really is a question of foul play?
What else could it be?
Well, a genuine case of food poisoning.
That hardly explains the death of Captain Radcliffe, though. Does it, Miss Chilcot?
No. You wanted us, sir.
Ah, yes, Mrs. Holloway, thank you. We shan't keep you long. No, stay, please, Miss Chilcot. We should like you to hear.
Mrs. Holloway, what was your opinion of Esther Quant?
Esther? Well, she wasn't with us for long, so...
Was she a good girl? Oh, come along, Mrs. Holloway. It's a perfectly simple question.
That's not for me to say.
What about you, Rose? Did you like her?
Yes.
You weren't perhaps a little jealous of her, I suppose.
Jealous? Why should I be?
She was pretty thick with Captain Radcliffe, wasn't she? Well, wasn't she?
What are you saying, Mr. Blunt?
That Rose, like every other young female in this house, might well have been in love with Captain Radcliffe and might well have become unbearably jealous.
That's not true.
Isn't it?
Are you accusing my daughter?
Oh, not accusing, Mrs. Holloway. Merely suggesting. And you must admit that it is a possibility. Well, Rose?
I did like Captain Radcliffe, and Esther was a bit fast. There was nothing more to it.
Are you sure?
Captain Radcliffe was a gentleman.
I see.
You ought to be ashamed even to think such a thing, sir, that my Rose could
You seem very concerned, Mrs. Holloway.
Concerned? Of course I'm concerned. Rose is all I've got in the world. I'd do anything for her.
Even murder? Oh, come now, Mrs. Holloway. If your only daughter is being trifled with by a blackguard, wouldn't you do anything to protect her? Even kill...
Mr. Blunt, that's insane.
Is it? What do you say, Mrs. Holloway?
Nothing. I'm saying nothing.
Very well. That will be all for the moment. Thank you both.
That was a bit brutal, wasn't it?
So is murder, Miss Chilcott. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, but accusing them like that, it's ridiculous.
Possibly. Especially when there's a more obvious suspect at hand.
You mean me, I suppose.
Come in.
A messenger brought this from Dr. Burton.
Thank you, Rose.
I trust it's good news. If you have any further flights of fancy, I shall be in my room.
That girl's a cool one. She gave nothing away.
You're a bit hard on the others, weren't you?
It had to be done, darling. Now, let's see what Dr. Burton has to say. Dear Mr. Blunt, there is reason to believe that the poison employed was ricin.
Ricin?
A vegetable toxalbumose of tremendous potency. Please keep this to yourselves. Ricin? Do you know anything about this, Tuppence? You used to be pretty well up in these
I
things.
think you get it from the castor oil plant.
Ugh, never did take kindly to castor oil. Now I hate it more than ever.
Oh, the oil's all right. You get ricin from the seeds of the castor oil plant. Yes, it's not too difficult to extract.
And pretty deadly, Dr. Burton says. Now, look. Is that
castor oil plant?
You say anyone could extract the poison?
Well, providing they knew how.
Could Hannah have done it?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so.
Unless... The book. It was open on the table with a page turned down. Here we are. Now then, let's see. Ricin. Yes. I thought so. I think we'd better have another word with Miss Macpherson. Now.
Tommy, would you leave this to me? Just this once.
Fair enough, Tuppence. You shall be captain of the ship. Just for a change.
Where are you going?
I want to ask Miss Logan a question. Only one. Miss Logan? Miss Logan?
Is that you, my dear?
Yes. Have you slept well?
As well as can be expected.
We're truly sorry to disturb you.
Never mind. Thank you, Mr. Blunt.
Not at all.
Well, now, tell me. Have you been able to find anything out?
Yes. Yes, I think we have.
My dear, you're much too attractive to be a detective. And so young.
And being young, I happened to work in a hospital during the war.
A cruel time.
Yes. But it taught me something about serum therapeutics, poisons and antidotes, how they save lives, and how they can kill.
Mr. Blunt, would you mind?
Of course.
You're most kind. Please go on, my dear.
I also happen to know something about ricin. For example, when it's taken in small doses, anti-ricin is formed and immunity is produced.
Is that really so?
Yes, indeed. Its discovery paved the way for the whole science of serum therapeutics. Your father's work, in fact.
My father?
You knew that, Miss Logan. You knew that very well. And that's why you systematically injected yourself with ricin.
What?
Let go my hand.
Not yet. You did this, Miss Logan, not Dr. Burton. You helped your father with his work. You knew all about ricin. You injected yourself to build up anti-ricin, and that's how you came to let yourself be poisoned with the rest.
No.
You chose a day when Dennis Radcliffe would be out. It would never do for him to be poisoned at the same time, or he might die before Lois Hargreaves.
You're mad.
The timing was crucial, wasn't it? So long as she died first, he would inherit her fortune, but at his death, the money would pass to you.
Mr. Blunt, help me.
His next of kin.
It's not true.
Oh, yes, it is. You told us yourself his father was your first cousin, remember? The real truth is, you gave yourself away.
You're mad, I tell you.
Truth is spoken. The Lord's truth. The Almighty's. There is the wicked one. I saw her reading the book and smiling to herself, and I knew. I found the book and the page, but it meant nothing to me. But the voice of the Lord spake unto me, and it was good.
Take it away! Take it away!
Hated my mistress, her ladyship. She was always a viper, jealous and envious. She hated my own dear, sweet Miss Lois. But the wicked shall perish. The fire of the Lord shall consume them.
Is she dead?
The shock must have been too much for her. I'm sorry.
We'll notify the police.
I'm your handmaid. I'm your handmaid. Oh my God. On your behalf.